What up, everybody? Let's do it live. We'll do it live. It's a classic Bill Riley um, blooper. I think when he was on Entertainment Weekly, Entertainment Tonight, something like that. Good to see you, Scotty. Good to see you, everybody. Pierre, you should do more of that in a Southern accent. You do. I love it. I lived in the South. I had to fight to get rid of my Southern accent. My grandmother from Pennsylvania kind of beat it out of me. Hi, everybody. Hi, Paulo. Let's see here. So we may get a surprise appearance by Pisco later because he's definitely he's taking a victory lap with all the Biden impeachment stuff. So it'd be good to see him. But if not, we've got plenty of stuff to talk about. We give it about 4 more minutes before we jump in. I love the impersonations. You mean James Comer? Joe Biden and the Biden crime family. Hate that guy. Pisco is fired up. He is, man. He is just calling people out. I'm actually convinced that he's in court right now or was in court the whole time and just like furiously texting when he should be cross examining somebody on the stand. Pierre Holmes said, congrats on surpassing 180,000 subscribers. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was hard work. But I officially quit my job on Friday. So I am a full time content creator. Thanks in large part to you all. Appreciate that. Said we're going to wait about 3 more minutes. Fruitcast Nation proudly supports Pondering Politics. Hey, I appreciate that, Fruitcast Nation. I'm sitting on my buddy's drummer chair, and the damn thing is uneven, so it's kind of like surfing. I appreciate that. Appreciate all the support from everybody. Definitely need as much support as possible. It's definitely going to be an exciting year. As a matter of fact, Luke Beasley is flying to Charlotte this weekend. We're going to do some collaborative content on Saturday. I have no idea what the hell it is. He's got a plan in motion, and then we'll release the release the video. I'm still wrestling with this cough, so bear with me. Ed Livewire, what were those crappy shoes that Trump was hawking? Yeah, they were like high top gold colored Converse. And I'm not going to lie, they didn't look the worst. But the fact that they had the Trump brand, they're probably liable to explode, right? You put them on, you take 3 steps, the whole thing detonates. Pierre says, I know you just started the stream, but do you know about presidential historian Alan Lichtman and his prediction system, the keys to the White House? No, I sure don't. I sure don't. Live hard. Greetings from Charlotte. That's where I am. Greetings. Sorry for calling you Josa. I get that a lot. My 8th grade yearbook referred to me as Jessica, as a matter of fact. Thank God 8th graders are so kind. All right. Let's see here. 1 more minute. We'll jump into some stuff. As a matter of fact, let me test some things out here. Can you all, let's see this. Share audio, share tab or screen instead. Can you all hear this? Can you see it? Can you hear it? And when I talk, do you hear an echo? How did that look and sound? You could not hear it? No one could hear that? Marianne says no. Reinvention says yes. See, but no sound, no echo. Okay. Damn it. All right. It's all right. I'll figure it out. Okay. What about now.
This is an important day and historic day for our state and
Can you
for
hear it?
every person who calls
Can
Wisconsin
you hear
home.
me?
Today is
Do
a
you hear
day
an
that
echo?
I believe will define our state's future. This will be the first time in over 50 years that Wisconsin will have fair legislation.
Yeah, cool. Perfect. Perfect. What's up, Arian? Okay. All right, folks, well, let's jump into it. I'm going to send Pisco a message just to let him know he can jump in at any time. I'm hitting too many buttons. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is my vision, and it is subject to change. Here is the link to pop in whenever. So my idea is that I would do this for like 60 minutes to 90 minutes, a couple of times a week, or at least once a week, and talk about stories and political stories that I probably wouldn't dedicate a video to just because I don't know if there's enough there to talk about or because I don't think it's sexy enough, but I think it's still important. I will also provide a link to those who want to pop in and voice chat, video chat, debate, disagree, whatever. Obviously, can't let everybody hog all the time, right? But if you're feeling particularly froggy, if you have a disagreement or something you want to talk about, you can jump in. Just let me know in chat that you want to talk. Sorry, I spilled Coke on my desk. It's going great. This is a great first episode. So let's see here real quick. Did I see recent presidential rankings? Yes, I did. Did a video about it. Fox News is really triggered that Obama is ranked. I think he was ranked. Was he ranked number 7? I thought he was ranked number 9. Biden was 14. Trump was last place. I'll be honest with you. I was surprised that President Obama was ranked as high as he was because in previous rankings, he was like top 20. And so for him to be in like the top 10 was pretty surprising. But I mean, he's a good president to be sure. But I actually think Biden's first term in office has been substantially more productive and more positive, all things considered, than President Obama's. Obviously, we'll have to see how the term ends. We'll have to see if Biden gets a second term, what that looks like. But Biden's on a good path so far. All right. So in the meantime, I'm gonna keep paying attention to chat. Again, if you Damon Skywalker says no audio. Can you all not hear me? Hey, what's up, Brandon? Brandon, I'll send you the same link I sent you the last time, but you didn't pay attention to, young man, in case you want to jump in and chat for a bit. In the meantime, we are going to take a look at some big news. Some big news in the world of politics, okay? Um, that will make an impact on the 2024 election. Here we go. This is a press conference from Wisconsin Governor Democrat Evers.
This is an important day and historic day for our state and for every person who calls Wisconsin home. Today is a day that I believe will define our state's future. This will be the first time in over 50 years that Wisconsin will have fair legislative maps enacted through the legislative process rather than through the courts. These maps will take effect immediately after publication and will be in place for the fall elections, providing certainty for candidates and campaigns that are gearing up to circulate nomination papers for this spring.
All right, folks. So, what this means is that for the first time in more than a decade, the state of Wisconsin, which is a battleground state, it is a purple state. We're going to dive into that. Will no longer have the worst gerrymandered maps in the United States. Political experts, political scientists have said that Wisconsin's voting maps are literally the worst and the least democratic in the nation. Okay. Now, because and we'll get into all this, but this is what the maps look like before. This is from Governor Evers' his X page on Twitter. After more than a decade, Wisconsin finally has fair maps. My maps are fair, responsive, and reflect the will of the people. This is what they look like before. Pay attention to the GIF. This is what they look like after, folks. This is huge. This is huge. Okay. So, and this is something that I'm not going to say I'm responsible for or anything like that, but I've certainly I tried to help contribute to when I canvassed with Progressive Victory, Progress Libs, and DGG Destiny's Community back in March and April of 2023. We went to Wisconsin. All of us knocked on doors to get word out for the upcoming Supreme Court election in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, like most states, they elect their state's highest courts. And in Wisconsin, there are 7 justices, and there was a conservative justice who was leaving, who not going to run for office again, which means there was going to be a vacancy and a chance to flip the balance of the court. That happened because the liberal justice, or the liberal judge at the time, Janet Protasewicz, won the election. So for the first time in more than a decade, the Wisconsin Supreme Court was flipped to a liberal bias, liberal bent, and it made it possible for Democratic groups to challenge the gerrymandered electoral maps, which again, for more than a decade, had been flipped towards the Republicans. Folks, this is insane. I want you to be aware of some of the facts here. Okay, so check this out. Madness. The existing map heavily favored Republicans, who controlled 64 out of 99 seats in the state assembly and 22 out of 33 in the state senate, because it has a bicameral legislature in a battleground state that has seen razor thin margins. 64 out of 99, 22 out of 33. And when I say Wisconsin's a purple state, I mean it. Right now, they have 2 senators. One is a Republican and one is a Democrat. They went for Obama in 2012, Trump in 2016, and Biden in 2020. If you do polling, Pew Research shows this, for every one Republican aligned citizen or resident of Wisconsin, you can find at least one Democrat. And yet that was the margin. And that was because Republicans briefly got the trifecta. They got the governor's mansion, they got control of the state legislature, and they got control of the Supreme Court back in like 2011. And they passed the most ruthlessly gerrymandered maps in the state's history, and really worse than any we've seen throughout the entire country. And it took this long to get that addressed. So, a couple of things real quick because I see chat's blowing up. Um, let's see. uh, this doesn't change the U.S. House map for Wisconsin. That's still biased towards the GOP. Um, I think it will control, or it will change the number of like congressional districts, but it will certainly, I know it will change the internal composition of the state. As a matter of fact, I think they did. There was an analysis done by Milwaukee, a local newspaper in Milwaukee. According to a Milwaukee Journal Sentinel analysis, the new maps have a roughly even split of Democratic and Republican leaning state assembly districts, which will all but guarantee a wave of Democratic gains this fall. They have specific numbers, I recall, from this article. Um, okay, right here. It still even somewhat favors the Republicans. The 99 assembly districts proposed by Evers are about evenly split between Republican and Democratic leaning districts. 45 districts are more Democratic than Republican, and 46 are more Republican than Democratic. That leaves 8 districts that are more likely to be a toss up between Democrats and Republicans. Dude, completely fair, more than fair. Because with a liberal Supreme Court, state Supreme Court, and a Democratic governor, it's entirely possible that Governor Evers could have pushed for basically the reverse, heavily gerrymandered maps which overtly favor Democrats. But Evers didn't do that, right? So he just went for what was fair. The speaker, the Republican speaker of the state assembly, let me pull this up, was not happy about it. He said, let's see, today, Governor Evers signed the most Republican. Uh-oh. Did I lose you guys? What happened there? Hang on one second. Why does it keep doing? Can you all see this? Testing. Somebody say something in chat. Okay, sorry. I got a new PC for editing and stuff like that just a couple of weeks ago, and it occasionally I think there must be something wrong with the graphics drivers because it'll occasionally like glitch out. Can also see this? Perfect. Today, Governor Evers signed the most Republican leaning maps out of all the Democratic gerrymandered maps being considered by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So, folks, this guy, this Republican representative, the leader of the Republicans in Wisconsin, is so biased. He's so hacky that he refers to these maps, which still favor at least by one the Republicans, right? 45 would lean Democrat, 46 would lean Republican, one more. He considers that a Democrat gerrymandered maps being considered by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. We sent him those maps not because they're fair, but because the people of Wisconsin deserve certainty in state government. The legislation brings an end to the sham of a litigation designed to deliver judicially gerrymandered Democratic maps to the liberal special interest groups funding said litigation. This fall, Republicans will prove that we can win on any maps because we have the better policy ideas for the state of Wisconsin. We're happy that the governor's signature brings an end to decades of liberal special interest litigation over the maps. Folks, how gross is that? This is Robin. So, again, a set of maps which still technically favor by one the Republicans. He refers to these as Democrat gerrymandered maps. This goes into the ethos of what the modern Republican Party is. They think fair. They think roughly 50-50. And I say roughly because, again, it slightly favors the Republicans, that's unfair. It's unfair. Anything less than a completely lopsided arrangement, which overwhelmingly favors Republicans, electoral, political, or affirmative action in terms of electoral maps, it's the only thing acceptable to Republicans. Super gross. Let's see. um, let's see. Brandon, when would you want me to hop on? Don't want to interrupt a segment. You can hop on whenever, buddy. This is the first draft. You can just hop on whenever. Let's see. Yeah, so folks, this is so big, right? Because again, Wisconsin, I think even more than North Carolina. North Carolina, where I live, they have pretty heavily gerrymandered maps, which favor Republicans as well. But this is like we're starting to bring democracy back to Wisconsin. Now, I covered this in other videos, but the conservative justices, the three on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, oh, they were triggered. They were furious. I mean, openly barking and hissing at their liberal justice, Janet Protasewicz, in particular, during the hearing of this particular case. They were brutal in the dissenting opinions. They were furious at the outcome. But ultimately, the liberals won in the end. And I will say, Janet Protasewicz did something really, really good, which was conservatives called on her to recuse herself, right? Because at one point during her campaign, she said the fact that these maps were gerrymandered for Republicans, that they were unfair. And so Robin Voss, the Republican speaker from whose letter I just read, he was like, "Listen, you should recuse yourself. You're clearly biased." Now, as people pointed out, during campaigns, conservative and liberal judges have made all kinds of opinions during the campaign about electoral maps and other issues. And Republicans didn't have a problem with it. But they were looking for any pretense to get Janet Protasewicz to recuse herself after she won the election. She refused. Now, most other feckless liberals in the past would have been like, you know what? You're right. I've got an opinion on this and I expressed it during an election cycle. And sure, you all do that all the time and you don't care. But you know what? I've got to be better than that. So I guess I'll recuse myself. In which case, the gerrymandered maps would have remained, right? Because in order to strike down a law like that, you need a majority consensus. If you have a 50-50 split, the lower court proceeding is upheld, right? But Janet Protasewicz said, no, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you all can opine about stuff when you run for the Supreme Court, then I can do the same. And if you all don't recuse yourself in such situations, then neither am I. And so the Republicans were pissed and they were considering impeaching her. They were going to impeach her. But as a matter of fact, when they consulted former conservative judges, former conservative justices, conservative legal scholars, they were like, this ain't it, chief. You do not have a pretense to impeach Justice Protasiewicz. So they ultimately backed down, but they tried. They tried everything. So I'm glad to see that they're taking the L. So, and 1 second. All right, let's see some of the comments here. Used to watch David Pakman, but I want to hear news, not him arguing callers or reading hate mail. So I have seriously thought about, because I like arguing with people, like responding to like incendiary comments or like comments which disagree with me. That's why I'm extending the invitation to people who, want to jump in the chat. They have a disagreement or some sort of like conversation that they want to have. It doesn't have to be like a knockdown, drag out fight, but it'd be fun. Let's see. Did you all see that the governor of Missouri has sent the National Guard and police officers to the border? Yeah, 26 states, 26 red states have pledged to support Texas Governor Greg Abbott in that respect. And listen, I am kind of annoyed that President Biden has not like flexed on him a bit, because they are getting a bit too close to rebellion for my liking. But several weeks removed from the situation, it's probably best that cooler heads prevail, because technically, these red states are not breaking the law. Like, even Texas is not breaking the law right now by putting up the razor wire. They're not defying the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court didn't explicitly tell them to put or to stop putting the razor wire up. They just said that the federal government can come in and cut it down. So it's a stupid, gesture of like Southern state machismo, but whatever. Hopefully, they will not be so brazen and so stupid as to try to physically bar federal agents from doing such a thing. But we'll see. You could get plenty of reaction content from just watching Sitch and Adam. I've thought about that because, again, I like sparring with Sitch and Adam, and maybe I'll do that. But it's weird because right now I currently, obviously my connections with Destiny are what they are, but also with Luke. So I kind of have a foot in the streamer world. I'm not really being a streamer myself and in the streamer space. And then a foot in the more, I don't know what you want to call it, normie world. I'm certainly more normie than streamer, but if I want to lean more into the streamer side of things, then yeah, I'll definitely take a look at Sitch and Adam. So we've got Brandon Clark here. I'm gonna add him. Hey, Brandon, can you hear me, buddy?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can. It's probably my connection, but the camera is a bit fuzzy on your end. That's okay. How does the camera look on your end?
My webcam on my computer. That might be why.
You want to switch your camera?
So I'm not sure.
Or is
hold on. I mean, I only have the webcam.
Is this the one you use to record?
No. I have like a DSLR for my videos. I'm on a webcam for streaming. I don't know how to connect my camera. At least
your DSLR. Yeah.
Yeah.
This may end up unfortunately having to be a brief conversation because I think of the delay. But so, folks, before I start talking with Brandon, just as a reminder, I actually linked probably a week or two ago in the community page on my YouTube channel to his YouTube page. So this guy is grinding in a way that I think makes me pause for breath, not just the cough. And Luke Beasley is too. I mean, he is just. How many videos are you putting out a day, Brandon?
I do 3 a day. Ever since you kind of gave me a little bit of advice to do around 3 a day, I've been solid grinding 3 a day and making sure no less.
Wow, I thought it was even more. It felt like more than that. I was like, damn, he's like putting them out every hour. So it's great video stuff. So Brandon's like, he's an up and coming YouTuber. He and a political commentator. I would categorize you from the videos I've seen. I think that you're progressive, but you also seem to have a bit of pragmatism too, because I've seen videos where you definitely simp for Democrats over Republicans, right? You don't engage in the false equivalence stuff. So I would consider you a pragmatic progressive, but that's just my assessment of your content. So why don't you introduce yourself and we'll chit chat.
So I'm Social Society with Brandon Clark on YouTube. I do 3 videos a day, like I said. Usually, most days I'm doing 2 normal, like kind of how you see Josiah do, or Luke, or the Davids, where I'm reacting to content. And then I'll try to do candidates. I actually did a journalist from Pakistan today that I put on my channel. So I'm doing all kinds of different interviews, all kinds of different content, trying to grasp different parts of the political sphere. I do agree. I'm definitely progressive. I'm at least of the left. I think titles are more used to put you in a box and then try to attack you for like inconsistencies, things like that, to accurately label your political beliefs. But I definitely am progressive. Any left policy name, I believe Republicans. I support Democrats in so far that they get me closer to the things that I want, the way that I want the world to be. Obviously, I'm way to the left of Joe Biden. If that helps put it in perspective, maybe. But I do support Joe Biden over Donald Trump, and I definitely understand the threat to democracy Donald Trump stands to be a fighter threat.
Fair enough. Yeah, I definitely seen. So starting in the new year, I've seen that you've done interviews. I saw that you interviewed a Democratic candidate who's seeking the nomination to run against Marjorie Taylor Greene in her Georgia district. Is that right?
Yeah. I interviewed him. I interviewed a candidate in Indiana. All kinds of Democratic candidates. I've reached out to Republicans. None have got back to me yet. So I'm open to reach across the
I mean,
aisle
if
as
they've
well. It might be a
Brandon,
bit more of a contentious.
Brandon, if they've seen your content, I'd be scared off too if I were a Republican. I'd be like, I don't want the smoke. I don't want any of this.
I mean, yeah, I probably would be. It's politics. You're supposed to want to have those conversations, or else you shouldn't be in the sphere. That's my.
Are you do you ever do like debates or discussions? Would you go on debate panels or things like that?
I haven't. I would maybe be open to. I low key kind of have anxiety, so like some doing things like that. But I do nothing but research. Like my life is about research. I have a document I could do of just links as I do. So I thought about it because I watch it a little bit. Like I watch Destiny and like Vosh and all of them, like a little bit here and there, how they do it. It's about how productive it is. I kind of think it's a little unproductive, but if it's entertaining and something my audience would be open to, I might be open to it.
That's fair. That's fair, definitely. I would want to talk to you longer, but chat's saying like there's glitching and like the disconnect with the audio, so I'm gonna have to let you go in just a second. But folks, definitely check his YouTube channel out. It's a Social Society with Brandon Clark. Again, I linked it. Actually, Brandon, can you post the link in chat right now, the chat that you were responding to? And actually,
Yeah, I'll probably have to do it when I hop off here, but I'll send it in as soon as, or I here, you just send it there. Yeah, give me one sec.
yeah, just do it right now, and we'll drop it in chat. Yeah, this guy's good, man. He's grinding. I have not been paying attention to the growth. Have you been seeing steady growth, or is it come in spurts, or is it about the
What'd you
same?
say?
Your growth, have you seen market increase? Is it like highs and lows? Is it pretty steady?
Yeah, I've
What do
seen
you?
consistent growth. I've been getting subscribers. I had that really took off, and I went from like 1,000 to like 4,000 subscribers in a week. Consistently, like a day, somewhere around there, consistent growth. So I'm just trying to break through that point where right now it's like my video of them, and I'm trying to hit the point where like like you guys, like the big dogs, where all your videos are triggering.
Fair enough. Yeah, guys, definitely check him out. He's worth it. We want to grow this ecosystem. He's got great content. Definitely want to have him back. Certainly at a time where it seems like the connection's a bit more stable. Brand, I appreciate you jumping on, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. My stuff.
I appreciate you bringing me on.
Absolutely, buddy. You have a good one. Okay.
You too. I appreciate you.
All right. So he's awesome. But his stuff is he does pre-recorded stuff like me. He doesn't typically stream, so it might explain why his setup was not set up for it. So again, folks, this is huge. I just want to end on the Wisconsin thing. This state is purple. It's a battleground state. It swung for Republicans in the past, Democrats in the past. It was also the site of an attempt by Donald Trump and MAGA to steal the 2020 election. It was the launch pad for one of the attempts at a Supreme Court case that the United States Supreme Court said, hell no, I want nothing to do with it. But it is purple, and hopefully these maps, which according to Governor Evers, go into effect immediately. So they will be in effect for this upcoming election. And there will be a real opportunity to swing the balance of Wisconsin back to something which reflects Wisconsin's constituency rather than what we've seen so far. So, where is Pisco? Pisco is currently, he says he's doing work. Pisco, come on, Pisco. He's probably yelling at a Republican right now. Let's see here. Let's see. Lichtman has a book titled The Keys to the White House, and it goes in depth about the prediction system. He has accurately predicted every presidential election since 1984, including Trump in 2016. I definitely need to check that out. Let's see. I may be in the minority, but strongly feel and less is more in keeping a dedicated, loyal base. It's just easy to become jaded on a slow news day. Yeah. So listen, that's the challenge, right? So, people in the comments on my YouTube channel, and they mean well. They'll say, "Oh, thank you for the reporting," or "Thank you for the journal." I am not a reporter. I am not a journalist, because reporters and journalists, they convey simply the baseline facts of the matter. And I like to think that my analysis is fact driven, but it is analysis and it is informed by my opinions. I'm not simply, saying this happened, this happened, this happened. It's this happened. This is what it means. This was the alternative. This is the worst case scenario. This is what should happen. So it's a commentator. How old am I? 32, baby. 32. Your Twitch channel stream is frozen and only available on 1080p. It's probably something that happened when my graphics driver glitched out. So I'll try to fix that for the next stream. This is good. This is a good, like, rough draft attempt. All right. So moving on to the next one. So there was an endorsement by, I think, the biggest newspaper in Texas, Red State, Texas, since we were just talking about Texas very briefly in terms of the border issues. We endorse Joe Biden for president of the United States in the Democratic primary. This comes from the Houston Chronicle, baby. So let's see. Now that the Kansas City Chiefs have triumphed over the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and without the help of Taylor Swift and the CIA, as far as we know, that's a good caveat to have, the nation can turn its attention to another winning team. We have in mind the Biden administration under the leadership of the oldest and arguably the most experienced president in American history. The team in the White House for the past 3 years has performed remarkably well, despite the rancor and divisiveness that have afflicted this nation for nearly a decade. The accomplishments of an administration dedicated to governing, one that believes in the power of the government to make life better for the American people, is a key reason we heartily endorse the reelection of President Biden. The other reason, equally important, is to fend off the chaos, corruption, and danger to the nation that would accompany the return of Donald Trump to the White House. The president has his shortcomings, to be sure, but what his administration has managed to get done during the past 3 years is a potent reminder to his fellow Democrats, to independents, and to those Republicans who have somehow resisted Trump's cultish appeal, that the nation has a viable alternative. Here's a sampling. If it's really the economy, stupid, and that's an expression, by the way, that was coined by James Carville, Republican strategist who still shows up on Bill Maher and other places to offer his commentary. He actually thinks that President Biden should drop out or at least get serious. In his estimation, those are his words. Anyway, if it is the economy, stupid, that determines success in presidential elections, then Biden can probably rest easy at neutral. No, Bidenomics alone didn't save us, but neither did they damn us. One of the clear advantages of a president as experienced as Biden is wisdom. In this case, the wisdom to get the heck out of the Fed's way, as it masterfully applied the brakes to what could have been runaway inflation. Let's see. Unemployment is approaching a 50-year low. Companies large and small need workers. Inflation is trending downward somehow, despite all the dire prophecies of economists, without the bitter medicine of a recession or a period of high unemployment. Folks, that part's huge, right? Because economists the world over were predicting either a double-digit recession when President Biden took over, which, by the way, the American Rescue Plan did quite a bit to forestall. If you look at The American Rescue Plan, which was Biden's initial flagship legislation, it was the third round of COVID stimulus. Every Republican voted against it, all of them. But if you look at analysis that was conducted at the time, economists say that the American Rescue Plan stimulated the economy such that it avoided a double digit recession, it doubled GDP growth, and it created 4 million jobs ahead of schedule. That was all Biden and the Democrats. Um, Food prices are still high, and hardworking Americans are still wincing at grocery store receipts. But gas prices have fallen as the U.S. produces more oil than any country in history, including Saudi Arabia, which, again, as far as the progressive left is concerned, that's actually a legitimate grievance to have with the president, given that he's actually approved more drilling and fracking permits at a higher rate than did Donald Trump. But for conservatives, they have no room to complain. Energy independence is extraordinary right now under Joe Biden. Let's see. Stock market is percolating along and hitting record highs. Now, again, as I mentioned in previous videos, if we're being perfectly rational, if we're not being partisan at all, no president, no president, no president is responsible, single-handedly at least, for stock market performance, if at all. But when Donald Trump was president, he took credit for it all the damn time. And as a matter of fact, Donald Trump is not president now, and he's still taking credit. He'll say things like, the stock market is doing so well because they know I'm going to be reelected. He'll say stupid shit like that. That's how good the stock market is under Joe Biden. And if that's the case, then we're going to give Joe Biden all the credit, because remember what my motto is: no asymmetry of expectations. If the asymmetry, if the standard is when the stock market good, president get credit, well, stock market great, Joe Biden get credit. And anyone who doesn't subscribe to that standard needs to show me with receipts that they never gave any president credit for a high performing stock market. And that's what you should demand as well. Let's see. Pass a bipartisan infrastructure and job. Yes, this is huge. Infrastructure week became a punchline during the inept Trump administration, but the Biden administration, in its first year, managed to pass a bipartisan infrastructure act that's expected to add an estimated 1.5 million jobs per year for the next 10 years. And actually, folks, I want to bring up this interactive map again. I've shown it in previous videos. It's huge. This interactive map that you can find at the White House website of all like the the current infrastructure maps of progress, the current infrastructure jobs. Let me find it here. View interactive map. Let's get this puppy going. Okay. So right now, these are private investments, which are benefiting from the American Rescue Plan. But in terms of public infrastructure, boom! Look at that. Look at this. Oh my God. And see how granular you can get? Hang on. Let's look at Florida, baby. Let's look at Florida. You click on one of these things, and what will it show you? I don't know if I can click on it. It'll tell you what it is: coastal storm risk management, hurricane and storm damage reduction projects. It's discretionary. The funding agency is the Corps of Engineers, Civil Works. Project name Duval County, Florida. Funding amount $1.3 million. You can get all the damn information, all the tea, more tea than a Lipton factory you can find on this website in terms of the Infrastructure Jobs Act. This is all Biden and the Democrats, and I'll give a bit of credit to the handful of Republicans who voted against it, but voted for it. But most Republicans voted against it, and every damn chance they get, they try to take credit for it. They try to do that thing where Biden shows up at a ribbon cutting, right? And you can just see like the Republican who voted against it, like kind of like put their arm around, like, hey, Joe, try to get the credit for it when they should get none. The White House has actually gotten a lot better about calling Republicans out for this. They should explicitly, relentlessly, viciously, right? Should be that Willy Wonka. You remember that? Was it Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory? Charlie in the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder, where he's like, "You get nothing, you lose. Good day, sir." That should be the gif. They should get no credit whatsoever. But Joe Biden is a better person than me, I suppose, sadly. Let's see here. It's repairing roads and bridges, upgrading air and seaports, modernizing our power infrastructure, investing in public transit and passenger. And they misspelled passenger. So now we're going to have to Fox is going to pounce on this. They're going to be like, what good is the Houston Chronicle's endorsement if they can't even spell passenger rail, and cleaning up Superfund and brownfield sites? Let's see. Oh my gosh, man, they get into the weeds on us. See, I didn't read this before. Steadily growing reliance on the Affordable Care Act during this administration has made coverage more affordable and more accessible for millions of Americans. More than 21 million Americans are now enrolled, up from 12 million shortly before the pandemic. And Donald Trump has promised again to try to repeal and replace Obamacare. He failed spectacularly in his first term because he's a moron and a terrible administrator and a terrible executor. But he's going to try again, right? And that's yet another reason to not vote for the guy, right? The Biden White House has also given Medicare the power to directly negotiate with Big Pharma, thereby lowering drug prices and placing a $35 per month cap on the cost of insulin. Again, huge. Now, you'll hear people say, well, Trump was going to do that for $35 insulin. For certain recipients of Medicare, I think it was like Medicare D, Medicare F, certain like subset of Medicare recipients, and the executive order was never implemented. He never implemented it. He drafted it and left it on his desk. So let's see here before I go on. Sorry, I'm dying over here. When will Trump pick a VP? He's probably trying to find out like which cultist he's doing. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I do mow the best. The best mows. Everyone, believe me. Bigly mows. Bigly. I think on the short list you have Elise Stefanik. Crazy, like insane. I don't know if it's a grift because apparently she used to be like a sane person, like relatively moderate. But you I see it in her eyes now. I've never seen her blink. She's like constantly when she talks about Trump, you can see like a little quiver too. It's very insane. I think she's on the short list. Melania wants Tucker Carlson, right? But Putin, Donald Trump's BFF, was not impressed with Tucker Carlson, so he's dropped a few rungs. Let's see. Anyway, let's get back to it real quick. But yeah, also again, as a reminder, if you have any disagreements, debates, comments, or anything like that, just let me know and you can pop in chat. Hang on 1 second. Okay. After decades of thoughts and prayers and little else in response to mass killings, the White House managed to shepherd in a bipartisan Safer Communities Act through a bulky Congress with the support of 15 Republican senators and 14 Republican House members. The act represents at least a modest effort to address gun safety in this country. As a matter of fact, President Biden, along with Maxwell Frost, where is this thing? They opened the first executive branch office of gun violence prevention. It's huge. So now it has a presence as well in the executive branch in terms of like overseeing the regulations and funding associated with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. It's huge. The Biden administration has managed to lead and organize an allied response to a brutish dictator's invasion of a neighboring democracy. Biden, in the words of former Republican Party operative Stuart Stevens, is standing on the side of freedom versus tyranny in the largest land war in Europe since World War II. Let's see. The administration is seeking a path to peace and stability in the post-October 7th conflagration involving Gaza, Iran, and Israel, and the desperate Palestinian people. This is obviously going to be a sticking point for the president because right now, understandably, there are like Rashida Tlaib, progressive Democrat in Congress, as well as Palestinian groups. I think the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, are not committing to voting for President Biden because they want to leverage their votes in hopes that he will take more aggressive steps to either a ceasefire or humanitarian efforts for Palestine. And the president should not listen. We typically stick with domestic policy here, which is why I haven't done any videos about Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestine. But this is something that the president does need to take seriously, right? So it's definitely a balancing act that he's got to walk. Another attribute of the Biden administration is its normalcy. That is true. Joe Biden is relatively normal. I miss normal. God, I miss normal. Okay. Now they address the age. They said we're well aware of Biden's age, 81, and Trump 77, as well as memory lapses that have prompted near panic among many of the president's fellow Democrats. Those of us who remember the energetic, garrulous, occasionally even eloquent Joe Biden of years past can see a difference a few years have made, even if he was always prone to gaffes. Accounts other than the report of Special Counsel Robert Hur suggest, however, that Biden remains focused, engaged, and in command of the vital issues that occupy a president. Okay, so this is huge, and I've mentioned this before. Everybody meets with it. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people meet with the president of the United States on a regular basis, not just Democrats, not just his staff. Republicans frequently meet with the president. Isn't it strange that we haven't been flooded with Republicans who are like, yeah, I met with Joe Biden yesterday, and man, can't string a sentence together. Couldn't remember my name. You never hear that from people who despise the man. Kevin McCarthy, when he was Speaker of the House and had to negotiate the debt ceiling increase with President Biden, told his aides privately that Biden was sharp, engaged, and tough, a tough negotiator, which explains why Biden kicked his ass in the negotiations. Right? To me, it says something that the only time you ever hear Republicans talk smack about Biden, it's in public, and it's usually not predicated on a meeting with Biden. Right? You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, who's probably never met Joe Biden. I don't blame him. Joe Biden would probably be like, "Ugh, get away from me," right? Probably doesn't want to meet with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and quite frankly, he should never, dignify her with a meeting. But people who have met with him on the Republican side have only ever said due to Sharp. So to me, that means something, right? I digress. Let's see. Just James Comer's voice is hilarious. Joe Biden and the Biden crime family. Hate that guy. God, he's the worst. Let's see. Actually, that was a mistake. He's from Ukraine, served in the U.S. military. Who are you talking about, Scotty? Scotty doesn't know that Fiona. Did you guys ever watch I think it was Euro Trip? Let's see here. All right. Keep going with this, and then we'll move on to the next thing. I'm trying to buy Pisco as much time as possible so he can rant and rave. Oh, it's at the end. So listen, he has, as they say, forgotten more than his presumed Republican rival will ever know. That's not saying much, and at the same time, it says it all. So what a sterling endorsement from the Houston Chronicle. And listen, I understand that a lot of people not happy with President Biden. See, listen, I know a lot of people want me to ignore the polls. I get the hate comments. Josiah, how dare you talk about the polls? Well, listen, this is the truth. In certain polls, and certainly individual polls, there is a margin for error. I look at aggregate data as much as I possibly can, right? No poll is perfect. But this idea that polls are completely unreliable and we should completely ignore them, folks, that is insane, right? We cannot do that. We will not do it. Certainly not on this channel. We'll try to contextualize as much as possible. We'll try not to freak out. But polls are polls, and they are our best in terms of broad macro sentiment, and certainly not when there's an election, right? You can say, well, votes matter more. Fair enough, but there aren't elections literally going on every day. So I think polls matter. I know a lot of people are upset with the president, but at the end of the day, you have a choice, and the rational choice. And here's the other thing. To me, it's a point of privilege to say I'm not going to vote for the best option or the least bad option, however you want to spin it. If I constantly engage with people who are less partisan than me, like the guys at the Vanguard, great example. I love the Vanguard, the show with Zach and Gavin. Okay. I donate to their channel. I watch their channel. They're much more outspokenly left than me. And they are very critical of the Democratic Party, like a lot of anti-partisan progressives are. But one thing that I really like and respect about them is they make it abundantly clear that to suggest that Trump and Biden are equal is a false equivalence and it's irrational. And they both said that if they lived in states where their votes mattered to them, right, like a swing state, they would absolutely vote for Joe Biden, even now. And they're very hard on him for his management of, I think, both wars, but certainly the Israel Palestine war, right? So to me, they have a lot of integrity, right? Because whatever their beefs with the president are, they don't go so far as somebody like Brianna Joy Gray, who I don't like and don't respect because she says that there's no difference, right? To me, it's a point of privilege to suggest that because you shouldn't think about just you. Like I'm a straight white guy who is not poor. So under a Republican regime, I will be the least among the cohorts that is the least directly affected. But I'm thinking about those of us who are not in that situation, right? I'm thinking about my friends in marginalized groups or in minority groups and things like that who are much more vulnerable, right? And so it'd be selfish of me to go, well, you know, kind of rolls out the same, right, for me. So I'll either just not vote or I'll vote for Trump, right? That would be insane. You've got to think about everybody else. So that's my spiel. Let's see. Um, since 2016, I'll never believe. Listen, listen. I had PTSD from 2016. I remember it so vividly. I was living in Louisville, Kentucky at the time, and I was actually out with friends. Actually, my current roommate um, was there, and his sister, and my then girlfriend at the time, and a bunch of others. We were out having dinner because I don't watch sports except for basketball. And we were watching the election results. It was on every TV. And at the time that we basically threw in the towel and went home, um, Secretary Clinton was losing to Trump. But it never occurred to me. I was like, yeah, it's fine. That's right. The counting is not done yet. Not even a doubt in my mind that she was going to win the election. Woke up the next day, rolled over to shut my alarm off. Yahoo News pops up in surprising upset. Donald Trump elected the 45th president of the United States. What? What? Yeah. So I have PTSD from it too. Let's see. Christian, at the risk of sounding like a kiss ass, Josiah is my number one favorite. Hey, listen, that to me, that's a beautiful and bold statement. That's not a kiss ass statement at all. As a matter of fact, you should say it more often. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Damn it, Pisco. Scotty, Vanguard definitely left with strong bias. Yeah, to me, they're the anti-Sitchin Atom, and I told them that. Like, I think that they're good foils for that. Actually, I think I've watched the four of them debate or have conversations. Pretty interesting. um, they do still matter, 100%. Again, I understand. Listen, I get it. You all are welcome to your opinions, but what I will tell you is that even like Simon Rosenberg, who I like a lot, somebody who said, "Listen, the 2022 midterms are not going to be a red wave." He will tell you if you ask him. So Simon, does that mean we should just completely ignore polls? Like polls don't matter? He will tell you, no, of course not. You should still look to polls. You just shouldn't hang everything on them. And to me, so you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Hillary won the popular vote by 3 million. We need to abolish the Electoral College. Hell yes. Hell yes. 100%. The Electoral College is this antiquated. I mean, by the way, its genesis was in slavery, by the way, right? It was seen as a compromise between the more populous states and the least populated states. And again, that's where, the three-fifths compromise is kind of laced through it too. So set aside its repulsive origins, it's also something that no other democratic republic on earth has anymore. I think it was I'm gonna blank on it. It may have been Norway, it may have been Brazil. At one point, like there were other democratic republics who did have an electoral college, and then they got rid of it because they're like, this doesn't make any sense. It is. It's insane. It's absolutely anti-democratic, and not anti-democratic in a way that is reasonable. So, for example, we don't have a pure democracy here. Obviously, that's why Republicans say things like, "We don't live in a democracy. We live in a then their republic." Right? What? A republic's just a type of democracy. It's a system in which the people elect representatives who wield political power on the day to day. We don't solve issues through referenda. Um, and we do have some anti-democratic institutions, right? So, for example, um, constitutional amendments. Those are anti-democratic, right? Because you can't just have a constitutional amendment with a simple majority. Now, I would argue that we've gone entirely too far in an anti-democratic bent because we actually have the Constitution that is the hardest in the world to change. There have been 11,000 attempts at a constitutional amendment in 250 years. And how many of them have passed? 27. We have 27 amendments. Out of 11,000 attempts, that's insane. I'm not saying that a simple majority should be able to, rescind the freedom of speech or whatever, right? I understand that there should be a super majority aspect to it, but a 2/3 super majority in both chambers and 3/4 of the states, that's way too high. But we definitely need to get rid of the Electoral College. No other Democratic Republic on earth has it, and there's a reason for it because in 8 or 9 times out of 10, a simple majority should be able to shape, the direction, the legislative and political direction of a nation. I'm sorry. What about the tyranny of the majority? What about the tyranny of the minority? Why is that more virtuous? It's not. If I have to choose between two tyrannies, it's a false choice, but if I have to choose, hell yes, I'm going to go with the tyranny of the majority. Are you insane? It's infinitely more defensible than a tyranny of the minority. I digress. Anyway. Let's see. Anti-corporatist, 100%. Those of us who are not marginalized need to look out for our friends who are. Bingo. Absolutely. We came quite close to ditching the Electoral College when Nixon was in office. He was open to the idea. Yeah, Republicans at the time were open to the idea. But now today's Republicans are not because they see it as, again, electoral affirmative action. The only way that they think they can win elections is via the Electoral College. Now, the irony is that's not necessarily true. Maybe if they would run popular candidates on a popular platform with popular policies, or I don't know, like maybe not even that, because in 2022, there were more people who voted Republican. There were more Republican ballots cast in 2022 than Democrat. I don't know. But Republicans are convinced. They have convinced themselves they cannot win a fair fight without these things. Do you think Clarence Thomas will recuse himself, maybe take up John Oliver's offer? Thomas did recuse himself from a court case recently. Will he take up John Oliver's offer to resign? I wish. Apparently, it's legal, even though it doesn't feel like it should be. Apparently, that's quite legal because he's not trying to bribe Clarence Thomas to decide a particular case in a particular way. He's just asking him to quit. I think Thomas should absolutely take that offer. Let's see. Jamie Raskin. Oh, love Jamie Raskin. Jamie Raskin is just chef's kiss. President Raskin, are you kidding me? A professor, a constitutional scholar, a debater, a rhetorician, witty. Love that guy. By the way, tragic background. I mean, I think January 6, 2021, the insurrection, was either the day or the day after he returned from his son's funeral because his son, I think his son killed himself, if I remember correctly. Oh, no, he's not going to run against Biden, nor should he. I'm just saying that in the future, maybe 2028 or 2032, we should have a Jamie Raskin. Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse needs more coverage. He does a play-by-play for Supreme Court corruption every week on the floor. Well, it's funny you say that. Because let me just move this over for a second. I have a clip of Senator Whitehouse. Let me find it. Yeah. Hang on 1 second. I can't find it. Yes. So right here, Sheldon Whitehouse, senator for Rhode Island. Yeah, he's one of the best. Let's see. Let me just message Pisco. Let's see. Because this one would actually be relevant for Pisco too, because it's about the Chevron deference, which it's a pretty big deal, even though again it's not as high profile as say the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade. He says, "Yeah, but I can't do camera." That's cool. you can click the link and not accept in camera. Let's see here. It's very surreal to look at my TV and see Josiah making eye contact with me, but thank you. Christian, that's because the tension's real. We know it's real. We should stop kidding ourselves. Yeah. So I've got like the camera set up here, and the way my setup is I can use the screen in front of my camera because it's like I don't script any of my stuff. I eventually want to like do video essays and stuff like that, but the Elgato prompter that I have lets me use the prompter as a camera. So like when I'm doing my live videos or when I'm doing my regular videos, if you see me looking at the camera while I'm like reading articles, right, which are also on screen, you see me scrolling. It's because I'm using it as another screen. All right, Pisco is going to join us in just a second. I want to make sure that my other video went live. I hope it did. Make me sad if it didn't. It did. It did. Pretty damn good for not scripting. I appreciate that. I do. So in high school, I don't have that many talents. I'm very short, so I was never going to play basketball. I was also really shrimpy in high school too, so I was never going to play football even if I wanted to, which I didn't. Um, but the one talent that I have was improvisational speaking and improvisational comedy, and so we like competed in state. So speaking contemporaneously is like one of three things I do reasonably well. But Shorty Squad, that's right. Hashtag Short King. I remember once I was on a date and she said the funniest thing, kind of killed me inside. But she was like, "What do you call a friend who's under 6 feet?" Anybody guess what the punchline is? What do you call a friend? Or shit, I gave it away. Damn it! What do you call? What do you call a guy who's under 6 feet? And the punchline is a really good friend. It was like, ask Pisco when he's going to hammer Rob Noor on the fake 1023. Man, he's been doing that nonstop on Twitter. I was actually tentatively supposed to have a debate with Rob this weekend, but Luke is coming in. Found that out today. We kind of settled that, so Rob and I may have to pick a different date. Let's see. You pooch your own joke. Yes, I know that. I understand that. It's a rough draft. Let's see there. Okay. All right. And well, until Pisco shows up, shorts up. That's Freudian slip. Is the link working? Damn it, Pisco. I need this guy to like be unprofessional for just a few minutes. Okay. Screw your job. I wish you or someone would do a series about issues going on in each of the red states and how Democrat policies could be fixing those problems now. Yeah, that would require definitely a lot of research. But now that I am doing this full time, again, officially as of this past Monday, that might be worth it. Lataviant, my boy. Okay, so Lataviant here, in addition to being an immigration policy wonk, so he's always going to be in my back pocket if I ever need to debate immigration. He's going to be my Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Phone a Friend. This is one of the guys who masterminded and helped organize the Ohio District 1 Cincinnati canvassing event. 41,000 doors knocked. 41,000. 41. 313 volunteers showed up. Like 200 people were registered to vote. I know it might not seem like much, but since most people don't answer doors and most people who knock on doors are registered, folks, it's huge. Latavian helped create it. So, but to answer your question, I don't know who I'd be. Let's see. What president is a stud, exudes charisma? It just billows off him. I don't know. And then I guess I'd be the opposite of that guy. What's up, baby? Can you hear me?
Yeah, testing. Can you hear me?
Testing. Yeah. So this
Howdy,
dark
Jim.
square is Pisco. Pisco can't be on camera. I know what you're thinking. He's never shy to which by the way, if this weren't a professional stream, we'd be going in to your recent thirst trap on X.
Hey.
I mean, just say it, buddy. I mean, like,
I appreciate it.
no, listen. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna put you down at the bottom since you're not
Awesome.
on camera. Okay, so bro,
Yeah.
all right, set the stage here because I'm sure not everybody here is part of DGG. So
Mhm.
the guy talking is Pisco, lawyer buddy of mine, also a liberal / progressive who also loves to stick it to Republicans. We do have some disagreements. We will eventually get to those, probably not this stream, but in a couple of others.
Mhm.
But today has been some big freaking news. So, so first off, can you all hear him well?
Testing.
It seems kind of muted. Does he seem
Uh-oh.
quiet to you all?
I'm quiet. I sometimes have this issue with using these apps.
Well, I just turned you up on my side. So how does he sound?
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you sound good to me, but I just want chat to weigh in. Of course, chat then vanished. So it makes me think something happened. We can hear. Okay. So Matt Latavian says,
I'll try to speak
"You're
up.
fine." That's fine. All right. He says, you're good. Okay, buddy. So what the freak happened? Because I only got to see a bit of it just from your tweets.
Yeah.
So you want to set the stage on what happened and why it's significant? Because I haven't told Chad anything about it.
Oh, sure. So you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with the ongoing impeachment inquiry that I know Josiah and the Pondering Politics channel has been very enmeshed in. I'm sure that that's correct, right?
100%. Yep. Actually
Right.
dropped a video about it today.
Sure, yeah. I actually saw that video. Well, when I'm at work, I'll just put up a Pondering Politics video to tell me everything I already know, but sometimes very good arguments that I haven't thought about. So basically, the impeachment inquiry against Biden, it's kind of a hodgepodge of different accusations that have been made and levied at Biden related to conduct by Hunter Biden that they are trying to link to Joe Biden, none of which has been shown other than some tax offenses that Hunter Biden is alleged to have committed to be, in the first place, even illegal, and in the second place, connected to Joe Biden in any way. But the most persistent of these accusations as against Joe Biden is that that when Hunter Biden, his son, was on the board of a Ukrainian holding company that dealt a lot with energy and natural gas, and that when Joe Biden was vice president and taking actions and sort of taking lead as the Obama administration was trying to tackle the Ukrainian issue, that somehow some action taken by Joe Biden with respect to a Ukrainian prosecutor that is pressuring for his removal was in some way corrupt or motivated by a desire to help his son, who was on the board of this Ukrainian holding company. So far, that's the structure so far. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
No. So that's it. Yeah. Basically, this is at the heart of the impeachment effort. It has been a prevailing conspiracy theory since prior to the 2020 election. It really took off in 2018, 2019, and was also at the heart of, ironically, Trump's impeachment because this stuff was related to the phone call that then President Trump made to Zelensky, withholding congressionally approved military aid against potential Russian aggression in exchange for Zelensky trying to dig up dirt on then candidate Joe Biden. So all of this, none of this shit's new. This conspiracy theory is what, 6 years old at least? So,
Yeah. And what you just said sort of took it from one realm to another, which is everyone kind of agrees that it probably wasn't smart and it looked bad for Hunter Biden to be on the board of this Ukrainian holding company called Burisma. Everyone kind of agrees that was a very bad look, including the State Department officials at the time. and that's okay. And even I think Josiah and I, we aren't opposed to like there being an inquiry about that, or people just making sure that everything's okay, and really just like investigating that potential conflict of interest. That's
And
okay.
it was. And that's
And
the
it was
thing. It
investigated.
was, folks. It was by Republicans in the Senate when they had the majority in 2019 to 2020. They did investigate it.
And they're investigating it now. And as you'll find out, there were other investigations, the nature of which is fully coming into scope now. Because the thing that that Josiah just brought up that is super relevant is when it comes from just, oh, well, this seems weird to something improper. And the first very visible um, version of that was when Donald Trump was pressuring Ukrainian officials, both the prosecutors themselves in Ukraine and the president or incoming president of you, I think it was actually the president at the time, Zelensky, to, on the basis of pure innuendo, pure speculation, announce criminal investigations and indictments against the Bidens, especially Joe Biden. So that was the action for which then President Trump was impeached properly in 2019 for abuse of office, abuse of power, using the office of chief negotiator, chief statesman of the United States to announce baseless investigations into the vice president of the United States by prosecutors that even Trump supporters say are corrupt. And so that was the start of this becoming a mainstream big problem. And it just continued after that with Republicans picking up these strands and pushing forward this narrative as hard as they could. Reporters, in quotations like John Solomon and others, pushing forward fake narratives, misconstruing certain documents that were retrieved from FOIA requests and presenting them as the opposite of what they suggested, twisting Ukrainian stories, taking at face value obviously conflicted witnesses like the corrupt prosecutor himself who was fired, or other corrupt officials who were like exiled from Ukraine because of their ties to Russia, and basically picking up this narrative and bringing it to a crescendo to try to affect the 2020 election and then all the elections since then. And what you have now, since the Republicans have taken the majority of the House, is this impeachment inquiry is largely based around or centered around these allegations. How do you know that? How can I say that? Jim Jordan, every time he has a chance to speak, everyone would agree a central figure in all of these investigations will always center back to Burisma, and he admitted on tape, that is Joe Biden, that he was pressuring the firing of that prosecutor. And that sort of sets us up with where we are today. We've had months and months of investigations. I think the Senate Republican investigation in 2000 before the election, the House impeachment inquiry now, the House impeachment trial, which was largely, or investigation, which also included these claims, because one of the defenses that Trump had was that there was a legitimate basis for these investigations. And so these claims were also investigated during the impeachment hearings. And what we're now finding out is that there was also multiple investigations from the Department of Justice. And that's what we're going to talk about, but I want to let Josiah have some room to speak.
So no, he sets basically that's the whole background of this tortured impeachment hearing, or this impeachment effort. Again, Hunter Biden, I think you could probably, certainly in modern history, I don't know if there has been a private citizen who has been investigated this thoroughly by this many organs of government, who again was not a government actor himself. Multiple times now by the Republican-led House, by the Republican-led Senate in 2019, the investigation from the executive branch that began as a tax inquiry under President Obama. Then he was investigated by Donald Trump's DOJ, now by his own father's DOJ. Now he's prosecuted. I mean, this guy has been, scrutinized with a magnifying glass. But it all leads to this, which is at the center of the current impeachment effort against the president is an FBI form, the FD 1023. Chat was like, what do you mean Bill Barr was around 1,023 years ago? They're talking about the FD 1023 form. Basically, there's an FBI form in which an FBI agent documents information that was brought to him by a confidential human source. They're unverified allegations, but the FBI has an obligation, given the reputation of this confidential human source, to write them down and notarize them. And the allegation was effectively that Joe and Hunter Biden were each paid $5 million by this Ukrainian energy company or investment holding company, Burisma, to influence U.S. foreign policy in a way that would protect them despite their corrupt actions. That's the allegation. And Jim Jordan and James Comer and all the others have made all kinds of reference. Chuck Grassley, that withered crone from Iowa, 91 years old in the Senate, has made nonstop reference to this. But wouldn't you know it, that SOB, the guy at the center of this FD 1023 form, we finally got his name, Alexander Smirnov, was recently arrested by the Department of Justice for making false statements to the FBI in those allegations. Those allegations, according to the FBI, against Joe and Hunter Biden were false. And apparently, from what Pisco's about to tell us, there's news drop today, it gets worse. It gets worse. So it wasn't just false statements. Apparently, there's a Russian connection too, and a back channel involving Donald Trump. So can you break that down?
For sure. And I hear myself. Okay, I'm good now. There was a little bit of an echo. And I'm going to rewind just a little bit because the back channel is actually something that was established before this information from the FD 1023 was given to the FBI. Basically, after the impeachment situation from Trump was pressuring the Department of Justice to go after Joe Biden, including with public comments and privately as well. And Rudy Giuliani was funneling information that he had uncovered during the whole impeachment saga, uncovered or manufactured or lying, and was sort of giving it to Bill Barr and saying, investigate, in an effort, obviously, to target Joe Biden. And Bill Barr opened up a back channel, that is to say, an office of the Department of Justice to vet certain claims. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that is per se something that's either illegal or unethical. I'm just telling you the facts that there was a back channel established by Bill Barr to vet claims by Rudy Giuliani that were related to Joe Biden, and where the attempt clearly was, at least from Giuliani, to target Joe Biden with his claims, as they had been doing publicly and privately with the Ukrainians now for a year, since 2018, maybe even before. That channel having been established, the FBI started looking into all these leads related to Hunter Biden. And they called out this confidential human source who had mentioned something anodyne, something minor, something in passing reference to Hunter Biden in 2017. And they call him and say, hey, can you elaborate about this thing you said about Hunter Biden? I'm not here going to say that I know for a fact it was a fishing expedition, but it kind of sounded like it a little bit, or a little bit convenient. They reach out to this guy, and all of a sudden he has a new story to tell. He has a new story to tell about this bribe and how he had, it wasn't just one conversation with the founder of Burisma in 2017. It was these other conversations too in 2015, 2016. Coincidentally, when Joe Biden was vice president, and coincidentally when Joe Biden was instituting some foreign policy with respect to Ukraine. And lo and behold, it's exactly evidence for the claims that Giuliani was presenting this entire time. Well, we happen to know now that those claims are complete and utter bullshit. And that this person, through receipts about emails that he was having with other people where it was clear that this was for the first time he was meeting someone in 2017, travel records, testimony from other people he talked to, that he had never, in fact, met these people who apparently had alleged the bribe as to the Bidens in 2015 and 2016, that hadn't occurred. And so they, as Josiah mentioned, they filed an indictment or this week. What we just found out this week in a filing related to whether or not he's going to get bail and whether he's going to have some pretrial release or anything like that. And part of the government's argument in their filing was that he should not be given that bail and he should not be released in a pre-trial sort of fashion. partially because the information that this confidential human source was funneling through this back channel was from Russians, the Russian intelligence services. Now I'm echoing. Sorry.
Hang on one second. Let me
Yeah.
let me take this off. I think it's on my end when I share the screen.
And I'll just finish with this and let Josiah do his little commentary. This shows, and you can see that there are documents as well that are referenced in this filing.
Do you still wait a minute? Are you still echoing?
No, not right now.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, it was a setting I had up.
As referenced in this filing, there are specific documents listed, specific agents listed with whom he had regular communications. That this was part of a broader effort to spin narratives and fake news, essentially, about the Bidens in the run-up to the 2020 election. And that he was continuing to spread fake news in 2023 about the Bidens and was at risk of doing more fake news drops like he had done in the 2020 election. And that this essentially had, in large part, been orchestrated by Russian intelligence services. Why is this significant? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say, so would you consider this, because again, I haven't been able to do the reading on this, but just from your description and the headlines I've offered, would this not count as part of Russia's multifaceted attempt to interfere with the election? I mean, this could have, given that the allegations were made and publicized prior to the election, could this not be seen as an attempt to influence the election by Russia, especially if Russian intelligence was involved?
Without a doubt it was. Without a doubt it was. And just like all of the information related to the pre-DOJ investigation and the kind of commentary after that came from pro-Russian sources, interviews with these preposterous figures who all had their allegiances to Russia or who had fled to Russia. Just like now, we had known that Russian bots were sort of engaged in this effort to try to sow those seeds for a time, and all the typical Russian apologists were spreading this narrative. Now we have confirmation that the Russian government was behind at least part of that narrative, and we don't know to what extent, to where it goes. But keep in mind something else, that forget about for months that the Congress people have been throwing these claims around. That's true, but just put it to the side for one moment. If you remember the Twitter files, one of the things that was cited by the people who, as a smoking gun proof of corruption from intelligence officials, was that some social media companies were getting briefings that the Russians might be planning some information drops related to Hunter Biden and Burisma, if you recall that, Josiah.
I do. They were told about this. Didn't it come up, if I remember my timeline correctly? It was Twitter, Facebook, all the relevant social media companies were just they were told, as an example, in like a war game scenario,
Yes.
that Hunter Biden might be the subject of a Russian disinformation campaign.
And you know what? They were exactly correct. They were exactly correct that this was a years-long effort, and it coincided with the efforts made by Rudy Giuliani, coincidentally, and Donald Trump. And it coincided with this back channel being established. And then with congressional, I should say MAGA congressional approval, because there are some Republican congressmen who we should speak up and say we appreciate when they stand up against it, but which has been also parroted by congressional MAGA Republicans. So here we are, folks. Here we are. The investigation into Joe Biden, which was pushed by Donald Trump explicitly and openly, had, at least for part of the core allegations that are now making up the impeachment inquiry claims, Russia disinformation linked to literal Russian intelligence officers. And where is the outrage from MAGA? Where is the outrage from these alt journalists and these Twitter files proponents? Where's the outrage? It's deafening silence.
Crickets. It's crickets. So then the question becomes, because if any, if anybody follows you on Twitter, in addition to you ball busting various Twitter Files authors and various Republicans and various conservatives, um, you've made a prescription, I think, part tongue in cheek, but also I think with genuine predicate based on the standard established. Couldn't you justify a special counsel investigation into this?
Absolutely. I think that there needs to be some kind of investigation into the start of the Hunter Biden and Joe Biden investigations. And I think that it's important for David Weiss to be able to finish his work basically uninterrupted without there being like some interference, and at least until he drops his report, because David Weiss will have to drop a report.
Right. And so David Weiss is the Trump appointed U.S. attorney who was allowed under President Biden to continue investigating Hunter Biden. I just really want to put a pin on this because I've mentioned this before in previous videos, how extraordinary this is. Typically, U.S. attorneys resign when new administrations come into place. But President Biden asked David Weiss, who was investigating Hunter Biden, his son, to stay on to investigate Hunter Biden. David Weiss was given special counsel status when asked for it. He has prosecuted Hunter Biden, and he was also the one during the course of this investigation to indict Alexander Smirnov. So my question would be, given what you say about Weiss being allowed to continue his investigation uninterrupted, do you think, if you had it your way, should Garland appoint somebody else to investigate this aspect, or should Weiss's
Yes.
remit be? Oh, okay.
Weiss should be given the opportunity to finish his investigation. I think it's to Merrick Garland's credit that he promised to not interfere with his investigation, unlike others, might I ask, who absolutely did interfere with ongoing investigations related to the sitting president of the United States. That is to say, Bill Barr and the Mueller report and all the other stuff that was going on there. But I hold myself to a high standard, or minimum standard, and I think that Merrick Garland did right to let this investigation play out without interference. And so I think he should keep his promise, and I think that should be allowed to continue, absent some evidence of like outright horribleness. Right?
But as far as like this component, that's where I'm curious. Should it be given to, okay, Weiss, you're going to continue to, you follow the prosecution of Hunter Biden, that's fine. But this particular component with Smirnoff and the origins of the Republicans' efforts against Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, we're going to give that to somebody else, a new special counsel to investigate, or should Weiss be the one to investigate all of it? That's where
I think in order to make that call, I would need to know some facts about whether or not it's actually possible to compartmentalize these and hermetically seal them. So to the extent that you could, in good faith, start this investigation without interfering in the ongoing prosecutions, which I think there may, I don't know the facts, so I'm not able to tell you right now whether or not that's possible. But to the extent that it is, obviously it should start right away. And at the bare minimum, the Attorney General or the Inspector General should announce that at the conclusion, or in in a very close in time to, or without interfering, that there shall be an investigation into the investigators, the origin of this investigation, and including, by the way, an Inspector General report on David Weiss's conduct. Absolutely, I think that's warranted given the evidence. I think it would serve the public interest. And yeah, we need to know essentially what role Donald Trump, Bill Barr, Rudy Giuliani had, if any. I'm not alleging that they had any, with respect to this particular person, and then more broadly about whether or not the initiation of the investigation was politically motivated. The people have a right to know about that. And to keep the same standard of the Durham report, which absolutely investigated Hillary Clinton and all the informants and bases of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation into Trump for Russia, and the Mueller report, all that stuff was fair game for, even though there had already been an Inspector General report for Special Counsel Durham. There needs to be equal treatment, and the public interest demands it. And so absolutely, I would call on the Attorney General or the Inspector General to assuage the fears of the American people and make sure that they know that whether tomorrow or today, this will be investigated.
Yeah, I hope that this gets the proper, the adequate amount of attention. Now, a couple of things that are somewhat related to this, I'll just say. So Pierre Holmes asks, and again, we're not going to get into all this now. Pisco doesn't have the time. I don't have the time because I want to end in the next 10 minutes. How do you feel about Merrick Garland's tenure as Attorney General? I have much more mixed feelings about the Attorney General than Pisco does. It's
Mhm.
one of our very few major disagreements. We're going to get into it eventually. Let me ask you this, Pisco.
Yeah.
Would how Garland handles this affect your opinion of them?
Yes.
Let's say I'm going to give you a scenario that I think is not outside the realm of possibility. Garland's like, oh, this doesn't look good, but it would be political for me to basically do what Barr did with Durham in this situation. I could absolutely see a timeline in the multiverse where that's the decision. I hope not. And I'm sure you think that it's less likely than I do. But if that's the decision, if Garland basically, I don't want to say sweeps this under the rug, but doesn't take it to the level that we think it should be taken, especially based on very recent precedent, would that affect your assessment of Merrick Garland?
100%, because this is not just a political investigation. This would be an investigation into members of the Department of Justice and high-ranking members. I don't think that the DOJ is this sort of horribly corrupt organization. I've been fighting in favor of our institutions, and I think that the Department of Justice in recent years, there have been absolutely areas where I have disagreed with their conduct, where there's even been some criminality at times, even with respect to Trump at times. But I don't think that they're this horrible organization. I think that by and large, they defend the rights of the American people. But that doesn't mean that everyone who's in a leadership position or who had a hand in this investigation are free from suspicion. If anything, to make sure that the people have the confidence in the Department of Justice, they need to have this investigation, because the start of this investigation is so suspicious, so suspect. The SPAC channel is incredibly suspicious. And so this isn't really about, do I think that Donald Trump liaisoned specifically with this person? If I had to put a bet on that, I'd put that at very low odds. I mean, Rudy, I'm not even sure. There might not have even been any contact between Rudy and this person. But this is about more than that. It's about the conduct and independence of the Department of Justice. And to that end, there has to be an investigation so that people are aware that the Department of Justice will follow the facts where they go, even when it relates to their own conduct, like they did for the Durham report and like they did for the IG Horowitz report on the Clinton investigation and on Crossfire Hurricane. So yes, it would greatly affect my thoughts on Merrick Garland's tenure if we never get any communique from the Department of Justice saying that they're going to investigate this.
Fair enough. Last question on this, and then there's some other questions specifically for you about other issues. Were you what do you want from conservatives, unelected conservatives, Republicans, people like Rob Noor, like just the whole gamut, in terms of how they respond to this, or what do you want from them?
I want number one, a recognition that an investigation is warranted at a minimum. That's a minimum. If you sit here and say something like, well, we don't need to investigate, it doesn't matter, then everyone knows you're in bad faith and you're not operating with the same standards that you're demanding of the Department of Justice under different leadership. Or
what if they stay silent? What if they don't say? What if they don't fight you on it, Pisco?
Then we know it's all bullshit.
Silent.
Then we know all their complaints are all bullshit.
So opposition or silence are unacceptable to you. There needs to be a level of surprise.
They need to say something like, "Of course we agree with an investigation here." And they could say, "I don't think Trump did anything wrong. I don't suspect it, but it's important for them to find out." Whatever you want to say, and especially because they already think David Weiss is corrupt. They already say that Weiss is corrupt, and Weiss had this sweetheart deal, by the way, which is starting to look, that prosecution is starting to look more and more potentially underminable with the evidence that's coming out about manufactured evidence that occurred under the DOJ's watch. So just beware, there may be a filing or two on this.
Do you think
issue.
Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's attorney,
they're watching this closely. I'm sure they are. And to be 1,000% clear, if you're a Republican who said that Weiss is corrupt, all the more reason for you to want an investigation into the start of this investigation and what exactly happened. So absolutely. But the thing is, they don't want more investigations.
No, of course
they don't trust the DOJ. You think that if the DOJ comes out and says Weiss is not corrupt, or we didn't find anything here?
No,
folks,
it's unfalsifiable. You're right.
It's
anything.
unfalsifiable.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of other things. Somebody asked early when you jumped in, old Scotty, can we get a quick thought from Pisco on the Alabama Supreme Court ruling? They actually quoted scripture.
Mhm.
I believe it's the frozen embryos count as people headline that I've read, but I haven't had a chance to look into it. You have
Yeah,
any
I
thoughts?
haven't looked into the court case myself. I will note that um, you know, I don't know why it's constitutional for a court to consider, if it did, because I don't know if it did, but if it's considering scripture, I think that might have been just a concurrence. But to the extent that it's considering scripture, I don't know why that's not an establishment clause violation. Um, the Constitution protects the people from instances in where the government, including courts, would violate the Establishment Clause of the United States, which says that there shall be no establishment of religion in this country. So
Fair
to the
enough.
extent that it's relying on religious doctrine to come to an answer, I would say, hell yeah, I have a problem with that. To the extent on the issue itself, you really see how unserious these conservatives are, because as a matter of fact, fertilized embryos are frozen. I'm sure there are literally thousands of them in this country. To think that anyone, when they made their laws back in the 1800s about human life or whatever, was thinking that frozen embryos could be considered what before there was even a conception about what DNA was, is laughable, and it's just not practical. What do you think? You're going to apply all these rights, equal protection rights, to frozen embryos? What
Hmm.
is that going to do exactly? I think there was a funny thing going around about tax deductions, but why? What's the limiting principle here? Why would you be able to limit and discriminate to children who are fertilized and cellular, as opposed to children who are fully formed, quote unquote, fully formed and birthed? There's never a good answer in terms of like the exact date and time that someone becomes a human life worth preserving. Everyone, even secular people, may disagree on the exact moment that human life deserves consideration, and I'm sure that you would agree on that. But there's some clear cases and some not clear cases. I think, under my view, I think dead bodies is a clear case. It's not a human life deserving of innate intrinsic value. A fertilized egg, I would put in that category, and I don't think it's practical to work with that standard.
Fair enough. So somebody else asked, can someone explain to me how, I believe the guy's name is Wade, not Nathan, Wade and Fonnie Willis's relationship interferes or somehow changes the facts of the Georgia case? This is a case of attempting to change the will of the people through, and then unfortunately it cut off. But I know you were covering this again. I didn't have a
Yeah.
chance to dive into it myself. Any thoughts that you want to make about the Fonnie Willis scandal?
Yeah, it's potentially a real conflict of interest, and it's definitely a potential ethical thing. Does it affect the actual facts of what occurred? No, of course not. And Trump absolutely started trying to steal the election in Georgia. That, for me, might as well be established by now. Whether or not it breaks Georgia law, it's for the courts to decide and let the process play out.
At
Why
this
is this
point,
an issue?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Why is this an issue? Well, if you are hiring somebody who, where there's a financial relationship, um, and a sort of potential incentive for you to pay them more, or for personal reasons, right? To go on every theory you can, to uncover all these like potential avenues of, and do as much work as you possibly can in order to get paid out. All of those things potentially could lead to questions about the impartiality of the prosecution, whether it was motivated for unethical reasons. And that would call into question the fitness of the district attorney to be the one to prosecute this case, which could be very problematic. Um, I happen to think that there is a potential violation of ethics there. I don't know enough about Georgia ethics to say to a certainty, but it's absolutely a needless issue. Why do we even need the court to resolve this? Why are we even in this position where this could be a problem? And we're only here because of the potential lack of candor of the district attorney Willis, and the sloppiness of having this relationship in this context and hiring someone for whom this could be an issue.
What would
And
you
so
like to see as a remedy? Would you like to see her just basically recuse herself from the case
I
and
want to see
pass
the
it off
law
to a
applied.
lieutenant?
So if the law requires her recusal, and I don't know the law enough to comment, if this is an ethical violation under Georgia law, and which requires her recusal, I want to see that applied. The judge seems pretty fair-minded, and I wouldn't have a
Fair. Let
problem.
me pitch it to you like this then. Let's say the law doesn't require it, but let's say she makes a political consideration. Damn it, as much as this kills me, I need to just get this done and over with so we can move on and basically kill this scandal in its crib. If she makes the political consideration to just say, okay, screw it, I'm recusing myself. This is being passed off to the next in command at the district attorney's
Mhm.
office. Would you support that?
Um, I think I would. Yeah, I think
Fair.
that if she determined that this conflict of interest was so bad that it was jeopardizing her ability to fairly run or impartially or without with efficiency run this prosecution, I would be in favor of her if she determined that for herself for her recusal. That was a determination she would have to make to the extent that
Hmm.
it's a not required recusal or
Right.
not required ethical violation, whatever the standard is in Georgia, which I don't know again. But yeah, I think that these these cases are too important to be bogged down by the legal issues or ethical issues of individual prosecutors or their egos. And I have to tell you, I didn't love her performance on when she was examined, when she was like playing for the camera. I don't think that that's good.
Hmm.
I think that these cases are too important, and we can't sort of be being distracted by all this nonsense and theatrics.
Yeah, I don't know how this will end. All I know is, like I asked the hypothetical, and I think unfortunately, just given the political environment, even if she had made the decision like some were calling for, just even if there's not a case to be made here, District Attorney Willis just drop out of the case and hand it off to somebody else. In addition to potentially, like old Scotty points out, this could cause additional delays if that were to
Mhm.
happen. But even set that aside, I think Republicans have never let the facts get in the way of a good PR campaign. So I think even if she were to drop out tomorrow, they would take this and run with it to cast aspersions about the entire prosecution.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't be doing this on the basis of like what MAGA will say.
yeah,
I think that it should be a determination made by, in the first instance, the court to see if this is sort of irrevocably conflicted. And again, I can't speak to that because I'm not an expert or knowledgeable really about Georgia conflict law, especially as applied to prosecutors. By all accounts, she appears to be a competent prosecutor. But it's just a question of the conflict. And then the second instance, it would be whether she determines for herself that that it's impossible for her to effectively run the prosecution. And if she determines that, obviously she should recuse herself.
yeah. Definitely. So I'll be interested to see where it goes. I have not covered it much also because it has not affected. I mean, certainly it's a political event, but in terms of materially affecting the facts of the case itself, as you say and as others have noted, there is nothing in this discovery or in the scandal which has implicated the case against Donald Trump. So to be quite candid with you, I haven't paid too much attention to
Mhm.
it. But I'm sure it's going to continue to make its appearance in the headlines. So, anyway, well, listen, folks, this was the first political live stream. I'm going to do some of these more often in the week. I don't know if it'll be a daily thing or a once a week thing or a couple times a week thing. Pisco and I are also working on a thing, which hopefully we'll have more news about later on. Um, but yeah, appreciate you all participating. Like I said, this is kind of the theme is we're going to cover stories that I probably am not able to do actual videos about, but I do think are worth discussing. We'll definitely take questions, comments, debates, not just from others, not just from Pisco, not just from other streamers or content creators who want to get in and argue with me or us, but also from you all. You all are welcome. The same ability for Pisco to join this chat. If you all have things you want to say in a camera and a microphone, feel free to jump in. Just let me know in chat that you want to talk. And my goal is to do this, like I said, for about 60 to 90 minutes. We went a little bit over this time, but that was also because there was quite a bit to talk about. So, peace, go, buddy. I appreciate it. And then I appreciate the rest of you all for participating in the super chats and everything. We'll do this again very, very soon. And the VOD will be up for you all to review, because somebody talked about, oh, what about the Wisconsin maps situation? That was the very first thing I covered in the stream. You should definitely go back and check it out. And yeah, we'll do this again very soon.
Thanks
Appreciate
a
it,
lot.
Pisco.
Yeah, yeah. Have a good one, and appreciate the chat.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon. Thanks, buddy. And then everybody else, again, much love. I appreciate the banter, the engagement. We'll do this more often, get even more viewers. And again, if at any point you want to chit chat about it, because it doesn't have to be a disagreement. If you want to, like, hey, listen, I've got something on my mind, bounce your ideas or bounce your take off of, politically speaking, obviously. Or if you have a disagreement that you want to talk about, again, just let me know. I'll send you the link. You can jump in here. We can talk about it. But we'll do this again very, very soon. I appreciate it, folks. Thank you all. You all have a good